Board of Alders notice New Haven, the Community Development Committee of New Haven Board, June 16, 2021 at 6 p.m. via video conference at https://bit.ly/35FXYLC and by audio at 301-715-8592 with webinar ID of 943-1295-5533 and a special audio only passcode of 87237-416 to hear and act on the following items. LM 2021-0120. Order of the Board of Alders, City of New Haven, approving an easement agreement between the City of New Haven and 44 Olive Street Ground Owner LLC for the construction and or maintenance of certain landscaping, lighting, benches, and decorative concrete improvements on land owned by the City of New Haven, which borders Union Street for the Olive and Worcester project. Item 2, LM 2021-0156, resolution of the Board of Alders of the City of New Haven approving the disposal of a parcel of land constituting a portion of 200 Derby Avenue in the form of a defined traffic easement to State of Connecticut Department of Transportation. Per order, Honorable Brian Wingate, Chair. Attest, Honorable Michael B. Smart, City Town Clerk. These items are on file and available for public inspection at the Office of Legislative Services, 165 Church Street in New Haven. And for a disability-related accommodation, please call 203-946-7651 voice or 203-946-8582 TTY prior to the meeting. Public can view the meeting on the Board of Alders YouTube page or at https://bit.ly/35FXYLC. If you wish to present testimony at the meeting, you must register in advance or by calling 203-946-7934 or mailing public testimony at newhavenct.gov before 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Written public comment testimony may also be submitted via email to publictestimony@newhavenct.gov before 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting. At this time, I would like to take the time to introduce to you the members of the committee. My name is Frank Douglas. I'm Alder for Ward 2.
Sal DeCola, Ward 18.
Alder Carmen Rodriguez, Ward 6.
Alder Kimberly Edwards, Ward 19.
Alder Ellen Kupo, Ward 8.
Okay, so thank you. I guess that's quorum. So at this time, I would ask if there's anyone here to testify on this first item, if you could please present yourself by stating your name and your address, please. Mr. Lucas, who do we have on the queue? Who do we have in lineup?
We have city staff first, Mr. Chair. So let's bring them in.
Thank you. So state your name and address for the record, please.
All right, hold on.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Doug House-Layton, Director of Transportation, Traffic and Parking, 115 South Water Street, New Haven.
Good
Hi,
evening, Mr. Housley.
Carlos Azaguirre, 244 McKinley Ave, New Haven, Connecticut, 06515.
Good evening, Carlos. Is that it? The two of you? Anyone else? You may present, either of you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'll just present the item, and then we have city staff here in support. They may not necessarily need to. They will be here to answer any questions that I may not be able to answer specific to the project. And there is also members of the development team in the audience that can answer some of the questions more specific to the project. But let me just give you a little thumbnail of this. This submission specifically did come from the Office of Economic Development. We are, as some of you and most of you may know, this area, just to give you an idea to orient you of where it is. If I can share my screen real quick. This isn't a great map, and the folks will give you a better aerial map once they come on, but let me share my screen with you now. Okay. So this is the building that was formerly known, I believe, as 87 Union. It's the former Torrington Plumbing Supply Company building. Most of you may remember that have been here for more than the last few years. So this is a nearly 300 unit building that is nearly complete. Much of it, tenants will start moving in, and so the first phase of tenants will start moving in September. So you guys have, I think this project was first brought to the city in 2015, and I think it got and some amended site plan approvals in 2018. So this is a project that's been before us several times. Again, the construction is well underway, and I think the folks from Epimoni and Adam America can show you some of the pictures. But we're here today. The city is bringing this easement before you to regarding this sidewalk here, where my cursor is, and this is the eastern side of Union Street. Across the street, the other side of the street is the Union Street Dog Park, which many of you may be familiar with. So as you know, the city generally owns most streets and sidewalks. The folks at Epimoni, Adam America have some great ideas for new light fixtures, new benches, new plantings, new trees, and decorative pavement on these sidewalks. One thing to note is that this sidewalks can be particularly wide. I don't think Alder Cupo or Alder Rodriguez, they will be pretty familiar with this. These have some up to 42 foot sidewalks with sidewalks in some of this area, the shaded area. This is the easement area here, the shaded area. So so these improvements were not to city standard in the sense that they were probably more, I guess, more expensive than the general city light fixtures we use, benches, those sort of things. So in receiving their approval from the Board of Alders, it was recommended that they get an easement to install these improvements: benches, lights, trees, planting, and then decorative pavement throughout. So in order for us to allow that to happen, the city needs to enter into an easement agreement with them, where they would then thereby be responsible for maintaining these improvements, and there would be double indemnification, mutual indemnification for each party, both the city and the developer, should there be any legal action taken against one of the parties while the other party was using it. And this will be fully open to the public at all times. We will maintain ownership of the land, but they will just be responsible for the improvements that they are putting on the land. So we thought this would be the best way for them to enact those improvements. And if I may, if it pleases the committee, I can certainly have the folks from the development team come on with some color pictures and show you what they're planning to do. And sort of give you a better idea before anybody has any questions. Mr. Lucas, I think there's several folks on there, Tim Underko, Mark Wallman, Darren Saeed, a few others. You might want to raise your hand if you can, if you're here to speak for the on the Epimony team or Adam America team. Michael Hunton is another.
Hi, this is Darren Side. Thank you all for having us here tonight. I'll just jump in and say a quick hello, and I'm going to hand it off to some of our team members to walk you through this. And I'm here to answer questions and talk in a general way, but I'll let the specialists walk you through the package that we've drawn up and brought tonight. I have some pictures and whatnot to show you. I just want to say again, thank you all for this forum, for working together on this thing. We think we're delivering a beautiful project that's going to really help the neighborhood and some jobs and create a nice connection between downtown and Worcester Square. And we're really excited to be a part of it. So again, I'm here to answer any questions and whatnot, but I would give it over to Mark Wallman and Tim Underko from legal, Mark Wallman, and civil engineer Tim Underko. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Wallman. I'm one of the attorneys.
Sir,
Yes,
excuse me. Once again, sir, gentlemen, before your name and address, just for the record, please. I know you gave your name, but give us your address too, please. Thank you.
certainly. My name is Mark Wallman. My office address is 271 Whitney Avenue in New Haven, Connecticut. The easement that we're requesting is an easement which was required actually by the approval by the City Plan Commission. And what it does is it enables the developer to go in and construct the improvements in the area. You'll see a picture of it, shortly. It enables them to go in and construct the lighting fixtures and also to instruct the special decorative features of the streetscape improvements, including special benches, decorative concrete, and planters for plants, which are going to be maintained by the developer. So the easement, one, gives them the right to go in and construct for the benefit of everyone, for the public, and also gives them the right to go in and maintain the special improvements which they are putting in. And in addition to maintaining the special improvements, they're also obligated to take care of snow and ice removal at their own cost and expense. So this is an easement which enables us to go in, build, and then maintain for the benefit of the public.
Thank you.
Good
Any
evening.
questions? Any questions for this gentleman from the committee?
Mr. Chair, I have one question.
Please. Okay, I recognize you,
Thank you,
Alder
Mr. Chair.
DeCola.
I have one question. I thank you that you answered most of my questions. The one thing with the lighting,
Yes.
who supplies the source of power for the lighting? If the lighting goes out, who do we call as an alder to report to the developer? So will there be a contact information for us to reach out to when my colleagues or that represent that area can call?
The lighting is actually maintained by the city. We are going to construct the lighting. I think it's city standard lighting, but the city will be responsible for maintaining the lighting. The developer maintains all the special improvements that they are putting into the easement area.
Okay, but you mentioned lighting. So the lighting you're improving, but the city is responsible for the upgrade of the lighting?
For the maintenance of the lighting, correct.
Okay, but you're putting the new lighting in, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, we are.
Okay, okay, I just wanted to get that clarified. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, okay. No. Thank you, Mr. Alder DeCola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I will piggyback off of Alder DeCola. So the city will be responsible for the upkeep of the lighting itself. And what I mean is the city will be paying for the electricity.
That's correct. This is standard city lighting. The developer will be responsible for installing it and for maintaining its special improvements. But the city, the agreement with the city is that the city would maintain the lighting as it does other lighting in the city.
All right, thank you. That's clear. Any other questions from the committee members directed to this gentleman?
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair. And
The chair recognizes you, Alder Rodriguez. Carry on.
thank you, Vice Chair. So just to be clear, all the planters, concrete, stamped benches, and maintenance apart from the lighting, just to be clear, will be taken care of by the developer.
That is correct.
Thank you so much for that. I just wanted that to be again on the record. So just lighting is being handled by the city. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're
Mr. Chair,
welcome.
if I may, Doug Houselighting had his hand raised. He may have something to add about the lighting, since much of this falls in his purview. He and
Yes,
Bob.
you may.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is Doug Houselighting, Transportation, Traffic, and Parking. And as the attorney for the development said, after installing city standard appurtenances, we will be maintaining that lighting and paying for the electricity. Very standard agreement that we do across town in order to get our standards promulgated, but then also maintain them. And we appreciate following the standards and making sure that everything's up to the best for the city's right of way there. And I should say, Mr.
Thank
Vice
you,
Chair,
Mr.
that
Houseladen.
the way to get it, the way to get the light repaired when it goes up is to contact the city or TTMP department, 203-946-8075, or reporting it through C-Click Fix, and we can also redirect it that way. So just to answer the Alder's question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Houseladen. Any questions for Mr. Houseladen from the committee members?
Mr. Chair, Ellen Cupo is raising her
Seeing
hand.
none. You may speak, Ms. Cupo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I would just like to know, it was said before that we'd be able to see additional details about what is going in. I'd just like to ask to see those details if possible.
Sure.
Through the chair, yeah, you could. Who would we be getting that from?
There'll be Tim Underko.
Thank you.
Yep. Good evening. Tim Underko, professional engineer with Langen Engineering, offices at 555 Long Wharf Drive, New Haven. If I may share my screen, which I'm not permitted to do at this time, is it possible for someone to give me permission to do that?
Mr. Lucas, is the gentleman able to share his screen? Mr. Lucas?
Sorry, which one is sharing? I got frozen for a second. Which one of you needs to share?
Tim Underko.
Tim, okay, hold on, Tim.
Alder Rodriguez, mute your phone, please.
Go ahead, Mr. O.
Okay. If everyone can see that, I think we'll be off to the races. I have just a few slides here. So as mentioned before, the area that we're discussing is the area covered in red here. And what's unique about this, and if everyone's not familiar with the property, this line, and maybe if I highlight it here, this is the edge of Union Street. However, this is the actual property line of the development. So there's a sliver of land in this area that is owned by the city adjacent to and outside the actual right-of-way of Union Street. It's a separate parcel. And in 2014 and 2015, when this parcel was originally in front of the City Plan Commission, and we were discussing how to treat the Union Street frontage, because that land is city-owned, the standard approach to developing that area would be to use city standard sidewalk, your typical 5x5 gray concrete from the applicant's property line all the way to the street edge. So as was mentioned before, this in some places is 40 feet wide. And to avoid a blank 5x5 foot grid of gray concrete from the face of building out to the curb line, the idea of treating this area with a higher level of finish was contemplated and included in the City Plan Commission approval. And the upgrades included some modifications to the scoring pattern for some visual interest, the use of planters that don't conform to the square 5x5 box or 5x10 box that you typically see along the curb line, as well as some seating. And if I flip through here, this just turns off the hatch. And as part of the city plan application, we prepared some renderings, which are shown here. You can see this is a view looking south towards the train station and towards Fair Street in the distance here. This isn't your typical 5x5 concrete sidewalk. We wanted to incorporate some planters. We wanted to have some round planters, which would be unique to city street layout, as well as some curbing and some seating. So in order to actually build those improvements and have them exist on city land, we're in the process that we're all discussing this evening. One of the improvements is a unique bench that kind of flows and has a shape to match the planters that we're proposing, as opposed to a city standard, small bench. So the hope was that we have the ability to develop this area, incorporate it into the project, liven up the streetscape, and not just have a sea of 40-foot wide concrete sidewalk from face of building to face of curb. So happy to answer any other questions. Michael Hunton is also on the line. He's the landscape architect in my office who led the design of this work. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Alder Cupo, was that sufficient for an answer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have some additional questions, if I might.
You may do so.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the first time that I'm seeing these renderings since they weren't included in our packet. So if you don't mind, I'd like to go through kind of starting from the beginning. So I have a question about, I think it's important, right, that we beautify our street. I also think it's incredibly important that we are upgrading our streets and adding to the existing character of our neighborhoods with these projects. First and foremost, I wondered, what consideration have you given to native plantings? It's unclear to me based on the renderings what exactly these would be, if there's any coordination with URI and Chris Ozick. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure, and if possible, I'd invite Michael to talk about species. At a high level, we use native species, non-invasive, that don't require irrigation and can live in an urban habitat. But Michael, if you could be, if your microphone could be activated, you could expand much better than I could.
Sure. Thank you. So Michael Hunton, licensed landscape architect with Langen, again, offices at 555 Long Wharf Drive. It's a great question, Alder Cupo. So the thought with this plan is actually where the concept came from. And, I actually lived right down the street in Worcester Square for quite some time, was the idea of nature taking back over the landscapes of older buildings and industrial sites. So those pockets, those pods that you see of plantings are large soil masses, so those trees can actually grow to a full height in terms of species. I think for the most part, it's a combination of a variety of sizes of species, so they don't look like they're all planted at the same time. Looks like it's kind of grown up over time. Species include thornless honey locusts, I think both single stem as well as multi-stem for variety. And then I believe, I'm just pulling up the plans here on the side, elm trees, obviously for the Elm City. But that tree actually is a Valley Forge elm. It is almost Americana. It is very resistant to Dutch elm disease. And that was one that we reviewed in close review with Chris Ozick in the city in terms of selection. There are also Amelanchier canadensis. I know I'm speaking Latin to you, but serviceberry, if you're familiar with that, shadblow serviceberry, for an understory tree to provide flowering element. So it's not just shade trees, it's a variety of shade trees and understory trees for a human scale. As far as the plantings, I would say, lower plantings to the ground. It's a variety of plantings. Again, nothing is invasive. Everything is native and or adaptive. In some cases, we did use maybe, like in the case of Liriope, it's very urban tolerant species that provides a great ground cover. But other than that, for the most part, everything is native, and that's something that we take to heart as well in our planting design. So I think that's the case for everything on the Union Street side. As you make your way down Fair Street, we have this pedestrian connection. That's a variety of shrubs and understory plantings that kind of support the sort of brownstone stair approach, kind of a very residential character to that street as you look at the architecture. And then along Olive Street in Worcester, it's basically the existing honey locust trees and some additional trees that we're planting in that area that some came down due to some storms during construction, and we're planting large trees to replace them. But those would be honey locusts to match the character of Olive Street as you go down the street as well. Hope that answers your question. Another little detail is that all these areas are not, one of the things that we looked at during design was to infiltrate stormwater into these areas because of the New Haven sands and using them for stormwater and capturing them. In some cases we do that, and in this instance, we're actually berming them to create more green space and curbing them to keep the salt away from those trees so that the trees have in this area, we really think the height and the mass and the growth of those trees is more powerful than trying to capture stormwater in them in this location. So.
Thank you, Michael. It was very thorough, and I appreciate it. So kind of, if we could go back to the slide with the bench, one thing that I was thinking about was what consideration, so this appears to be on a rooftop. Is that the intention, or is that on the sidewalk?
Again, Michael Hunt speaking. That's all at grade on the sidewalk, and the intent for this is that these benches would basically form the outer shape in some locations around the planters. So it's not on a rooftop. This photo is a precedent image. It's not built yet on site. So it's the closest thing we can show you to that. It's also a way of keeping people out of the planting area too. So.
Mm-hmm. And then I think one more question just about walkability and safety. What consideration for the pathway right on the street is being given to folks who are vision or hearing impaired?
I think so. The whole street, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while since I've looked at the grading for everything here. But I believe, I know it's ADA accessible from the crosswalk to the front door. And I know there are ADA paths that go through that area. I believe everything is less than 2% cross slope to make sure it's pretty flat site, I believe. So I think everything's less than 2% cross slope. So from that respect, I think it's basically completely accessible. I don't think there would be any barriers at all. There is, if you look at the plan here, you can see there's sort of a pathway that follows the parallel parking along the street. So you can have that get out script to get out of your car, and you can walk along the street with the city standard street lights. But we also provide some playful paths that sort of wind through the building with the benches as a place to stop and have a chat with a neighbor type of thing. There's a staircase you see on the corner. There's one set of stairs where it kind of slopes down quickly. That's just to provide access so people don't cut through the landscape area, but that is completely accessible if you just follow it all the way around to the corner and turn the corner.
Again, thank you, Michael, for the details. I think for now, that's all from me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Any other questions from the committee? Any other questions from the committee? Third time. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none. I would like to close the public portion of this
Not yet, Mr. Chair.
meeting.
Not yet. We need to see if there's any public testimony on this item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item? Do you have anyone in the queue, Mr. Lucas? Anyone in the wait?
No one has raised their hand as of yet, sir. And if you are on the phone, you would need to, there we go. We got one. Hold on.
Okay. All right. So we can let them in.
They're in.
Hello, your name and address for the record, please.
This is Anstress Farwell. Are you calling on me?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
Just one question.
Great to hear from you.
Always good to see you all. I have one question about the lighting. Two different things were said. One, that all of the things added to this plan were going to be of a higher standard than what is average in the city. And then you also said that you were using standard city lighting. And we have all kinds of lights in the city, Cobra heads, different kinds of historic lights from 1960s back to reproductions of Victorian ones. Do you have an image of what these lights are? And then related to that, if the city is responsible for, let's say, adding bulbs when they burn out, or replacing a lamp that maybe is damaged in a storm, will the city need to stock special parts? Or are these actually close to a city standard?
I believe it was mentioned that there would be city standard lighting.
Yeah. But we do.
Anyone can come forward and speak on to that, please.
Sure, this is Michael Hunton from Langen. I can answer that question. It is city standard lighting. This is requested by the city directly. I believe the fixture type, Ms. Farwell, is Franklin Square with the Anaheim finial from Spring City Electrical as the manufacturer.
Yeah. Do you know where else that is in the city? Just so I can have a picture of it in my mind, what the fixture looks like, if it's already in the city.
This is Doug House-Layton. I'm sorry if I can, this is city staff, Doug House-Layton. I think if someone were to go to the city engineer's website and they could pull up the plan that's on the city standard for the Franklin Square. The Franklin Square is the black fluted pedestrian style lighting. So one question I think that if I can clarify answers this question, I think one question is how many of the lamps are pedestrian scale, and then how many are the overhead Cobras?
Right.
So I think that's more of, if that can help more, right, answer.
Yeah, just because I see the black dots that are for lights and I don't know what they are. Yeah, thank you, Doug.
No problem.
Any other questions? Anyone else in the waiting to ask questions?
Well,
Or
I
to
do have
testify?
one other question. One is that the easement wraps around and has a very narrow tail that goes down Fair Street. Why, and then it stops just about at the end of the dotted line for the courtyard. Could you talk about that? Why the easement goes that far and stops? I guess it gets near another property, but you know, that would be good to explain what's happening there.
Sure, Tim Underko with Langen Engineering. The Fair Street, City of New Haven, and pardon the crude drawing here, ends. This is private land here on the, call it the inside of this line is private land, but instead of terminating the scoring pattern and not continuing the banding all the way to the curb line, we wanted to maintain that small strip so that there would be some continuity in the design and the pattern going from private land all the way to the curb, just as we are on Union Street, where the easement area or the maintenance agreement area goes from face of building all the way to the curb line. It doesn't stop at the right-of-way line to, again, allow continuity of the design to go from face of building all the way to the curb line, regardless of where the right-of-way line falls. So that tail would allow us to complete that around Fair Street within the limits of the city-owned land to the termination of the public right-of-way in Fair Street.
Are there any other questions? Do you have anyone else willing to or wishing to testify?
So just to clarify, tonight, I'm not going to be able to hear anything about which are Cobra and which are Franklin, that I would have to go to the city engineer's site to find that out. And the committee tonight will not see any information about that.
This is Doug Housley again, staff. Tim, I don't know if any of the designers have lighting systems that could show, but the Franklin Square is the pedestrian lamps that are on Temple Street in the New Haven green. And I think you might have a page in your plan set that can show the detail for the lighting. I believe, there you go, thank you. I believe all of the lights that are on the plan are this fixture. Is that correct, development team?
Correct.
That's correct. One clarification, Doug, is that over by Worcester Street, I believe 2 of the fixtures on the corner are the green pedestrian fixtures to connect to the Worcester Street fixtures. Those
systems.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's great.
And so none of these are actually Cobra lamps.
Correct.
That's correct. They should all be yep, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Anyone else in the queue for testimony? Anyone else in the queue for testimony? Yes?
If I might ask a question through you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you may, Alder Cooper.
Thank you. Would it be possible for us to get copies of these light renderings and et cetera? I know that they weren't included, and the more detailed rendering of the project, they weren't included in our packet for this evening.
Mr. Lucas,
I'm sure they will provide whatever you request, Mr. Chair.
yes, well, we will provide those. I'm requesting that we get those renderings to Alder Cupo and anyone else who would like to get them. Are you okay with that, Alder Cupo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions? Anyone else wanting to testify? Anyone else wishing to testify on this item? Third and final time. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to testify on this item? Seeing none? Motion carried. We will now close
Nope.
the
You got a
public
sec-
portion.
Got a second item, Mr. Chair?
Now, second item, we will move to the second item before we close this out.
Yep, go ahead
Sure.
and take the second item and
Okay.
then you can close out both at the same time.
All right, so we will move to the second item, the resolution for the Board of Aldermen for the City of New Haven approving disposal of the parcel. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this matter? If so, state your name and address for the record. Do we have anyone here?
Mr. Chair, this is Doug Houselayden again. I believe our Deputy Economic Development Administrator, Carlos Esguillar, was going to present the item on behalf of Economic Development.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Doug. I'm sorry. I was daydreaming. I thought we were talking about this first item. Apologies. Yes.
Sorry about that.
Yet. Hi guys.
Go ahead,
I know
sir.
you're getting a lot of me. Mr. Lucas, if I could share my screen again.
You still have permission, sir.
Oh, it says only hope. Okay, I guess I have to. Okay, yep, there it is. Where am I? So this item here, hold on, is actually a small land sale to the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation. This is the letter to President Walker Myers. As many of you may currently be aware, especially probably Alders Rodriguez and for sure Alders Frank Douglas, the area by the Tri-Corners in the Hills, so we're talking Davenport, Congress, and Columbus, and or Davenport, Columbus, and Congress, and Orange Avenue in West Haven, the Boulevard in New Haven, and yeah, those are the 5 streets. As you know, that's probably one of the most dangerous intersections in the city of New Haven for pedestrians, and I think it's very sad to mention, but there's been no less than 4 pedestrian fatalities within a quarter mile of that area in the last year alone, and much of that is owing to the fact that there are no there's a lot of things. Speed is a factor, certainly, but also that there are no pedestrian signals in this area. So the Department of Transportation at the state of Connecticut has been having a long-standing project to improve Route 10, which we all know as the Boulevard, or LT Grasso Boulevard nowadays.
If I may, sir, can you just? I'm sorry. Can you just state your name and address before we go any further? I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Vice Chair. Carlos Azaguirre, 244 McKinley Ave, New Haven, Connecticut, 06515. So as part of the state of Connecticut's project here, I'm going to share you a map now. Hopefully that makes a little more sense than what I'm showing you previously. Oh, it's not showing up here. Where is it? I want to show you the map of the area that I'm talking about. That would make your lives easier if you could see it. Hold on a second. Bear with me 1 second. I think I found it. Okay. So this is the area. Again, this is from the city's map viewer, so it's not it's not the most detailed, but this is the area I'm talking about. Here's your tri-corners where my cursor is. Here's the boulevard. Here's Orange Avenue. The state of Connecticut, again, is doing, as part of the Route 10 plan, and Doug House, Director House-Lawton and Director Zinn of the engineering department have been more heavily involved in this than I am on the technical side. But what the state is proposing is to acquire, and I can show you a little site plan, but the state is proposing to acquire about 400 square feet right here to install pedestrian signals where none exist. There's none any here, and probably leads to a lot of the fatalities with folks having to try to time the lights, beat the cars across the street, etc. So that's what the state, we need to convey this to the state. The state will pay us a nominal fee, I think about $1,500 for the 400 square feet. And this will then allow them to install pedestrian signals for the benefit of New Haven and West Haven residents primarily. The other thing I would add is this is under state statute. The state has the right to take this land through eminent domain. But we, obviously we would like to sort of follow our more formal process with the Board of Alders for any sale of city land. So we are bringing it to you. So that's sort of a thumbnail. I have it's not the easiest to see, but I have a drawing that shows some of the improvements. But if you have any questions about some of the any of the specifics, Doug may be able to answer some of those. But again, it's really just a pedestrian safety measure that is drastically needed for anybody that knows the area. Of a lot of Columbus House residents are at risk or have lost their lives at this intersection or within a few hundred feet of it. So it's something that I think is a fairly it should be fair. It should be looked upon pretty favorably because we all can probably agree that we need these signals here.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Any questions from the committee?
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you may. Alder.
So, Carlos, just to be clear, is this the intersection where the cemetery in that area?
Yes,
Yes.
it is the intersection across the street is we call it St. Bernard Cemetery. Is that what it's called?
Got it.
Yeah. So
Evergreen. Okay, so, and that is a large intersection with many, many cars. So now the traffic signals, folks will be able to come across much easier with that. Do you know how much time? Well, it's up for discussion. So moving forward, they'll be able to give us the timeline of how long that traffic signal will last, because it is a long intersection. Did that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Doug will know offhand. I don't expect him to necessarily, but he may, because this is our traffic director we're talking about here. Yes, so there's a lot, I think a lot of thought that's gone into this because of the fact that we know it's such an emergent issue with pedestrian safety.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Carlos.
Any other questions? Any other comments from the committee?
Chair, if I may, this is Director House-Leyton.
Yes, you may.
I'll be
Mr.
brief, Mr.
House-Leyton.
Chair. This is Director House-Leyton, 115 South Water Street. I just want to thank the committee for their time and consideration for pedestrians lost their life between this intersection and this intersection just to the south, Washington Avenue. We've been working with the state of Connecticut and our partners at the Connecticut DOT to improve this traffic signal. I still want to just point out that a number of traffic signals in New Haven still do not have pedestrian access, pedestrian countdown clocks, nor adequate handicap ramps. And it's imperative that we as a system try and produce better outcomes and faster outcomes to get more pedestrian signals installed on traffic signals. It's the bare minimum that we can do. Edgewood Avenue in your neighborhood, Mr. Chair, has started. Well, we'll be installing 11 more pedestrian signals on intersections. And I just want to thank the DOT for their efforts, thank the community for their patience, and appreciate everyone for their hard work on this.
Thank you. And we'd like to thank you too for the hard work that you're doing implementing this system. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. House-Leyton? Committee, any questions?
Mr. Chair, Ellen Cupo is raising her hand.
The chair recognizes Alder Cupo. You may.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I am, apologies for my dog. She will continue to yell at me because no one is here to feed her dinner. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question about, so the state's offer of compensation of $1,500. Can you elaborate a little bit more, either Carlos or colleagues from Economic Development, about how that, I see that there, hey, I see that there are two, in our packet, there's a value of defined traffic easement and then initial compensation. Can you talk a little bit about how that number was reached? Is that a fair assessment? That would be great. Thank you.
Carlos, this is Director Housley. If you want me to take it, I'm happy to. What is the method of fair compensation is an appraisal done, and then the square footage is then sold off. So when and the flip side of the transaction, occasionally the city is buying lands from the state of Connecticut, the same type of appraisal will happen. For instance, if there was a number of sliver lots that were sold to the city about 2 years back from the state of Connecticut, same appraisal method happens. They do a sales-based appraisal to kind of find comparable sale, comparable land cost, and then come up with a quantity based on 400 square feet based on a comparable sale, and then they come up with their $1,500. Thank you.
And Alder Kubo, I can just say, so like, let's say, I mean, not to get too into the weeds, but just, I'm working on a couple of other ones of these on the city side. So, you know, these all go, these kinds of non-buildable pieces are all go between like $3 and $5 a square foot at the max. So that's sort of what you're looking at as a baseline. I only know this because last night I was working on this, on something else. And then I came across it again from some other stuff. So, and that sort of looks like what they're paying based on this number.
Thank you, Carlos, and thank you, Joe. I appreciate that explanation. That'll be all for me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Cooper. Any other questions from the committee?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have one question.
The chair recognizes you, Alder DeCola.
Thank you. Just one question. Seeing that this is in a kind of a odd place where multiple wards kind of so Carlos, have the alders been called on and explained the whole details? I think it's I'm not sure, it's 5 and 4 or whatever that kind of intersect there. So I want to make sure the alders were contacted and they're aware of all this.
Yeah, I think it was, we've had a discussion. I think it's Alder Hurt in 3. I'm trying to say, is it Alder Rodriguez in 4 maybe? Maybe it's 4, not 5.
All right.
Yes, older.
But yes, we've had, you know, even before this item went, you know, I sort of did the submission, but I have to say Doug and Giovanni did most of the you know, the technical work. So even before, long before, and I think the Safe Streets folks did a lot of work with the others. So I think this area was pretty thoroughly workshopped, and then, you know, because of the danger there. But yes, I can specifically say we've spoken to the affected alders as well I'm trying to think, both in a meeting and both in city and then city plan commission. Some of them were on as well. So yeah, they should be pretty well aware of this happening in their work.
Well, thank you. Just a follow-up, please. After this meeting, you should reach out to them again to let them know, because if this is going to a vote to the floor, I would just like to have them updated about what happened in this meeting. Thank you.
No, I appreciate the reminder. You're right. I don't, you know, because a lot of things, you know, there's a lot of things on everybody's plate. So I don't want, if they may not be top of mind. So I will make sure to reach out. I actually thought of this because you're right. It's like 3, 4, 5 are all pretty directly affected. Then you have, you know, 23, 2, a lot of those wards as well. So, you know, you're right. It's pretty unique kind of nexus for a lot of different neighborhoods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Alder DeCola. Any other questions or concerns? Any other questions from the committee? Are there any other questions from the committee? Anyone from the public wanting to speak again on this? Is there anyone from the public willing to speak on this item? third time. Anyone from the public wishing to testify or ask questions on this item?
Mr. Chair, no one has their hand raised. We do have just one email that we did get from Alder Roth that she asked be read into the record. If, let me see what I can.
She wants it read into the
Yep.
record here.
Yes, sir. Let me see if I can pull it up unless you have it. Do, 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 do. Okay, she says, Dear Chair Wingate and Vice Chair Douglas, I am sorry I have a conflict and so cannot join the Community Development Committee meeting on Wednesday, but wanted to write in strong support of the transfer sale of land on Derby to the state to enable a traffic light and other pedestrian safety measures on El Grasso Boulevard at Columbus Avenue. 4 pedestrians were killed at this location in 2020. We must make it safer before more people are killed here. I walk all over the city, and this is the hardest place in the whole city to cross the street in my view. So it unfortunately is not a surprise that it is so deadly. If this is approved, I hope the state will move quickly to install the traffic safety signal and other pedestrian safety measures. We cannot afford to delay any longer and put more lives at risk. Thank you for considering my testimony. Sincerely, Abigail Roth, 42 Lincoln Street. End of
Thank you,
testimony.
Mr. Lucas, and thank you, Alder Roth. Mr. House-Layton, can you give us a little on when this project would start and maybe possibly commence, if I may?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. Can you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry, sir.
Yes. So is there a timeline on if we got started, when and if we got started, how long would this project take? And, you know, give us a date on when it would start if this is approved tonight.
Thank you again. This is Doug Housling, Director of Transportation, Traffic and Parking. At the moment, the state is waiting on this right-of-way commitment. I believe they have this scheduled for 2023 construction. So this project is amongst 17 other intersections and a larger project, including things like Route 80 and Route 17 and a number of other intersections in the district. But we're excited to get this right-of-way over to them so that they can start finalizing their details and get it out for construction. Hoping for 2023 construction was the last we heard.
Great, thank you. It's right around the corner. Thank you very much. Anyone else wanting to testify on this or anything else? No? Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to close the public portion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we close the public portion.
Second,
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All in favor, all opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The motion carries. The public portion is now closed. So moving forward on the first item, my recommendation is to discharge this from the committee and send it to the full board, take up for further business. So I will now entertain a motion on the item 2.
I move item 2.
Motion has been made. Can I get a second?
Second.
The motion carries. So the public portion, okay. So
What's the
there's been a,
discussion, Mr. Chair? What's the discussion on item 2?
is there, can we open it up for discussion? Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I think this is
Yes.
a great program. We need to make safety at that intersection. It's a tough intersection. I know it's going to take a couple years, but we need not to be part of the holding this up. We need to move this forward and get it moving. The quicker we move this, the quicker we save lives. So I'm in all favor of voting in favor of this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alder DeCola. Any other discussion? I myself also hold that spot in our city very, very dangerous. It's, you know, it's very busy. It's probably the busiest intersection we have in the city. And I definitely am for this project to go forward, to move forward. So I'm all in favor for it myself. Any other discussion?
If I may, Mr. Chair, I am a Hill resident and travel that area daily. And so I too echo the sentiments of both you and my Alder DeCola that we move quickly on this so that more lives can be saved in that area. And I'm quite sure that Alder Hurd and Alder Evelyn Rodriguez would both be in agreement with that, because it is a very deadly, very busy intersection. So the quicker we move it, the safer this area would become. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else wanting to comment or speak on this? Then I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
No, we need to vote on this item.
We
Mr.
need to
Chair.
vote on
Oh,
the
I'm
item.
sorry. My bad. So we did. Okay. So the motion carry. So then
You just need to vote. All
you'd
in
like to make a
favor?
motion? Yeah. I'll say let's vote on it then,
Yes, sir.
please. All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 All opposed? Say nay. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Motion carries.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Before you do that, Alder Cole, it seems that Alder Cupo has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not see that. I apologize.
Mr. Chair, if I might, are we going to be voting on the first item this evening regarding
No,
44 Olive?
no, I just said that we were going to discharge it for the full board, to the
That's
full
fine.
board. That's fine. It's okay.
I'm so
It's
sorry.
right.
Thank you.
Feed your dog. Feed the dog.
I let the dog out. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So it's been moved and seconded. So let's now get the
You're voting
vote
to
on the
adjourn?
adjournment.
Yep.
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
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 We have all eyes. So be it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.